Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Breakfast with Brian. A little bit different the last few days. I've been reading in Galatians in chapter 2 and verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. That's just a background to what's been happening. I've spent 4 days in Gosford Hospital attending to a few things. Briefly, I have had for some years cancer of the prostate, which has been under control with hormone therapy, but the hormone therapy is no longer holding it, so the cancer has now got out of the prostate and is in quite a number of my bones. Sounds pretty terrible, but in actual fact it's not as bad as it seems. As long as it stays within the bones, then there's no real problem. But a couple of the vertebrae have had a cancer which could escape into the canal, so I've had a bit of radiotherapy for that. And there are some other treatments to try and minimize the growth of the cancers and to give me a quality of life that will enable me to be active. Now let me just backtrack. On Saturday, I was in some pain and it was out of hand. And my wife suggested perhaps I should go to emergency at the hospital, and I didn't want to go. And in the back of my mind, there was this thought that if I went in, I was not going to come out. You know, we all have these thoughts, negative thoughts, thoughts which overwhelm and which dictate. So I battled that for a little while, and then we decided to pray. And I prayed. I said, Lord, I don't quite know what to do now, but you know what to do. What should I do about this? And I got quite a clear answer. It said, you go into hospital, I'll be with you, and I will take you all the way through. It's like as if you're going on a bushwalk that you've never been before. You don't know what obstacles you're going to face. You don't know if there's rivers to cross, if there's chasms to cross, if there's hills to climb. You don't know what is there, but I do. And all I need you to do is to trust me and hold my hand, and I will walk you through. So what has that got to do with the scripture I read? Well, in that scripture, it talks about the life that I now live. I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave his life for me. It's not faith for an outcome, for a healing. It's not faith for an answer. It's not faith for a solution. It's not faith for a way through. It's just purely to trust him, knowing that he will bring us through, because after all, his word tells us that he works all things together for good to those who love him. And it also tells us that when we walk through the waters or walk through the fire, we will not drown or be burned, for he is with us. And sometimes we need to have a goal, we need to have an answer, we need to have something to aim for, a solution that we are asking God for, but often we don't. We have to allow him to dictate what is going to happen. And that's what happened, so I just surrendered to that. We went off to emergency, and the 4 days that have followed, as I described to somebody first, they were magical. You could say magical, being in hospital. I changed that then to miraculous, because what happened was every interview I had, and I had interviews with a number of doctors and medical staff, they were loving, they were caring, they were understanding, they were helpful, and it all began to show me that God was my chief physician, and he was helping them to do the work that he wanted them to do. As a result, I'm now out of hospital, I have a plan, and I have a quality of life. I'm not trapped in there. Sometimes we need to trust God for the outcome. Sometimes we need to trust God that all will be well. Sometimes we need to trust God that he knows best. And whilst it might not be a miraculous cure, which we all long for, yet he uses different ways to bring about a good result in our lives. And along the process, he teaches us and draws us closer to him. And that's exactly what's been happening. So today, be encouraged. I don't know what you're going through. You're going through something like me or something quite different. But put your hands in the living God who loves you and Jesus Christ who gave his life for you, and all will be well. God bless you, and goodbye from Breakfast with Brian.